In a mansion paved with marble, the air was so still you could hear the ticking of the clock. The chandelier hung from the vaulted ceiling, thousands of crystals catching the morning light and scattering it like shards of ice. The safe in the study stood open, stacks of cash lined up with the precision of brickwork. Gold and diamonds gleamed quietly inside, whispering temptation without a sound. From the shadow beyond the door, a man stood motionless, tall, perfectly tailored in a dark suit, eyes cold and watchful. His name was Alexander Ashworth, 52, a billionaire real estate magnate and one of Los Angeles's invisible power brokers. To the world, he was the embodiment of success. To himself, he was nothing but vigilance walking. That he knew every step she took in this house. When she started dusting, when she paused to change a rag, even which window she preferred to polish. And today, he planned an experiment, cold, precise, without emotion. He had left the safe door open himself, ordered the security cameras disabled for 1 hour. No one would know what was about to happen. No one but him. Her name was Camila Torres, 32, Mexican-born, a housekeeper in the Ashworth residence. She was small, quiet, and graceful, with deep brown eyes that seemed to carry a private grief. Those eyes never lingered too long on anything, as if she were afraid of being caught remembering she'd worked for the Ashworths for 7 months. A widow, 2 daughters, a sick mother. Her life was sliced into pieces by debt, hospital bills, and bus schedules. Yet in this mansion, she moved like light itself, soft, precise, and almost invisible. From the kitchen to the hallway, from the dining room to the study. Alexander's first impression of her was one word: clean. Not just physically, but unnervingly clean. He'd seen too many fake smiles, too much sugar-coated loyalty. His ex-wife had walked out of the courtroom with 1/3 of his fortune. His trusted CFO had siphoned off $2 million. His so-called friends had vanished the moment rumors of bankruptcy hit the news. That he had learned the hard way. Never trust anyone. But Camila was different. She never flattered, never avoided, never asked for anything. One night, he'd found her asleep at the kitchen counter, her head resting near a half-eaten container of cold frijoles. For some reason, the sight unsettled him more than pitying her ever could. This woman was quieter than the house itself, and more real. And that, precisely, was what made him suspicious. No one was that pure. Not in his world. So he decided to test her to see if she, too, would reveal the weakness he believed lived inside everyone. The pull of greed, the whisper of compromise. That morning, sunlight streamed through the high windows of the study, dust motes dancing in the beam. The clock read 8:42 a.m. when Camila walked in, holding a gray rag and a bottle of glass cleaner. She began her routine, polishing, dusting, humming faintly under her breath, until a glint of light caught her eye. She froze. The safe. The door was wide open, cash and jewelry gleaming from within. She looked around. No one. The room was silent except for her breathing. Her fingers tightened. The rag slipped from her hand to the floor. Her heart pounded so hard she could hear it echo in her chest. From the hallway shadow, Alexander's gaze didn't waver. Camila took one step forward, then another. Now she stood before the money, her breath uneven, her hand lifted, slowly, trembling, until her fingertips hovered an inch above the stack of bills. And then, she stopped. Instead of touching the money, she picked up the rag and began to wipe the edge of the safe, carefully, tenderly, as if the metal deserved to be clean. Her movements were meticulous, her fingers trembling slightly, but not from temptation, from restraint. She didn't count the money, didn't glance around, didn't even linger. She just kept cleaning. And then she did something that took his breath away. Camila reached into her apron pocket and pulled out a worn, folded photograph. Its corners were frayed, edges pale from AGI in the picture. 2 little girls were smiling beside a hospital bed. On the bed lay an elderly woman with silver hair and a kind smile. Camila placed the photo gently on the safe's edge and whispered something under her breath, too soft for him to hear. Then she lifted the photo, pressed it to her lips, and kissed it. When she tucked it back into her pocket, she closed the safe door and turned the lock. Not a moment of hesitation. Alexander realized his hands were trembling. He turned away quickly, terrified she might see the sudden warmth in his eyes. That night, he couldn't sleep. He sat before the fireplace, a glass of untouched whiskey in his hand. The flames flickering across his face, he kept seeing her, her calm, her whisper, that fleeting kiss. He'd thought this was a test of honesty. But it had turned into a mirror. And what he saw reflected back wasn't Camila. That it was himself. That a man so hardened by betrayal he'd forgotten what gentleness looked like. The next morning, there was an envelope on the kitchen table, thick and sealed with the Ashworth crest. That it read, simply, to Camila. Inside was a handwritten note. Integrity is priceless. But peace is rarer still. You gave me both. Your family deserves a life without fear. Please accept this, not as a reward, but as a thank you. Beneath the note lay a signed check, blank. Camila stared at it, frozen. A few seconds later, tears began to fall, blurring the ink. She sank into the chair, hands over her mouth, shoulders shaking. For the first time in years, the weight she carried began to lift. 3 days later, a black sedan stopped outside her tiny apartment. Her mother was in the living room, watching TV. Her daughters were playing with puzzle pieces on the floor. When Alexander stepped in, holding a bag of fresh fruit and a stack of papers, the old woman froze. Camila rushed out, startled. I just came to visit, he said softly, with a smile that, for once, held no distance. They had lunch together. Simple food, laughter from the kids echoing in the yard. Later that afternoon, Alexander handed her the papers. My lawyer prepared these, he said. It's a deed for a small house in Santa Ana. Better neighborhood. Closer to your mother's hospital. All expenses covered. Camila shook her head, tears brimming again. I can't accept. You can, he interrupted gently. Because it's not money I owe you. It's trust. He handed her another envelope. This one's about work. I'm creating a property operations department to manage my estates in LA and San Francisco. You'll lead it. Salary doubled. Flexible hours. You'll have time for your family. Camila's tears spilled freely now. Why me? She whispered as he looked out the window, watching her daughters laugh in the sunlight. Because you reminded me, he said quietly, that even when no one's watching, a person can still choose to be good. Months later, Camila moved into her new home, a small yellow house with a garden. Her mother's health improved. Her daughters started ballet classes. Sometimes, she still visited the Ashworth estate. The man who once lived behind locked doors now helped in the kitchen, clumsily making coffee or teasing the children until they giggled. There was no romance between them, no melodrama. Only something quieter, deeper. A bond built on the rediscovery of faith in people. One evening, at a charity gala, Alexander gave a speech that went viral across the city. The truest tests in life, he said, standing under the lights, don't come with applause. They happen in the quiet moments when no one's watching. And the richest person in the room isn't the one with the fullest safe, but the one who chooses honesty and kindness. In the audience, Camila smiled through her tears as applause filled the hall. She knew he wasn't just thanking her. He was thanking the part of himself she'd helped him find again. If you still believe that light can pierce the dark, that kindness isn't weakness, but a choice, then remember this story, because sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is stay pure when no one is watching.